Hello, hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. That was like a lovely afternoon with the other Minotaur, right? Right. Oh, with newfound respect for your partner in crime, you totter, toter, totter, back towards your shared quarters together, ins insulated from shame by a heady mix of pure exhaustion and camaraderie. It's gonna be one of those episodes, clearly, but not before re-racking your weight and wiping down the benches as is proper. The thought surfaces as as you hobble along that it might be inappropriate to head straight to your quarters without bothering to shower first. However, you're too annoyed at the prospect of climbing 4 flights of stairs to worry about the fact that you and Asterion both look like you just participated in a wet t-shirt contest. You take a quick shower, then go check on the exploration team. Let's check in on the exploration team. Looks like your team found something. You found a poem written in very old parchment, a small memento from Asterion's past. You can read it by opening the files in the menu. Those are piling up, aren't they? It is what it is. Sorry. Later in the afternoon, you found Asterion going over the letter again. He put it away as you approached. Afterwards, however, his gaze would wander away from any task, no matter how small. His mind was elsewhere, perhaps swimming in the dark of the cold room in which he had been locked. Just what could that old man want in sending you and Asterion a letter, if only he'd had the grace to bow out and allow his memory to fade away from the Minotaur's mind. You asked Asterion to remain by your side. You, manned the lazy reception. Yeah, you manned the lazy reception together, which allowed you to keep his mind busy with chit-chat. When you talked about the world outside, his gaze would soften. If his breathing was somehow perturbed, all you had to do was hum, perhaps sing, and he would follow your lead. And there was only so much you could do. You asked him to go out with you for some fresh air, in the hopes that it would help to clear out all the stale thoughts which smothered him. Is like the I assume we're gonna get this as like an inventory item, right? Or do we get the choice between sweaty and not sweaty, you know? You told him to take his time, but he would not. I was made to work and bear the yoke, he said. To which you respond with tender grace, If that's so, then would you be so kind as to tidy up the garden where Lord Hades' statue is? Your words were music to his ears. He wasted not a single minute and trotted down to his task, one which would hopefully bring him some measure of peace. Some alone time, as much as he needed, even if he was unwilling to allow it for himself, without a proper excuse, would do him well. And so you spent the rest of the afternoon alone in your office, looking over the previous master's documents and belongings. The drawers were filled with finely organized folders containing intricate records of all the guests the hotel had housed, going back to the early 20th century. And yet, the paperwork could not lie. Jean's methodical record keeping was replaced almost overnight by Clement's contemptuous carelessness. Lipstick marks on the same sheet where Asterion's scrawls detailed damage to rooms and facilities. Okay. The report crossed over with a thick black ink. Cigar burns on complaints from staff and underpaid wages, pleading for their superior to take the mere minutes required to fabricate the diamonds that were promised. Spilled coffee and beer on a dozen or so check-in sheets of young women with fine and noble-sounding names. You then found another ledger shoved down the very bottom of a drawer, which detailed the employment of every staff member from the 40s to centuries back. Every new worker and what they were owed, their date of retirement, plans for how they would be cared for even in their frailest old age. Employees from 100 different countries: China, Mexico, Egypt, Brazil. And now, after spending hours sorting through the predecessor's mess, you get up from your chair and look out the window. The sky above, a snaking mass of clouds, letting through only shy peaks of the sunset orange above them, and the wretched valley below, stained with thousands of years of injustice, nevertheless provides a soothing breeze. What happened to all these people after Clement threw them out? One can only hope they managed to find their way home unscathed. However, seeing how sudden his tantrum was, there's no way of telling, and since at least a handful of employees had left their passports here, who's to say they got out with their savings in hand? This is the legacy Clement left behind: a paper trail of mismanagement, a consumed survivor, and a generation of displaced people. And now that man who had made his crimes seem like a youth's foolishness has the gall to make himself known once more. The timeless sky, the breeze untainted by man-made smoke and soot, the comfort of your office, altogether, they can do much to ease one's mind, but not enough to rid you of the bite at the back of your tongue. The bile, not bite. I don't know. You look down to the valley, a place both cursed and beautiful. How cruel are the gods to mix a drop of mercy with a sentence of eternal damnation. Far down, all the way down from the safety of the hotel, you see it squirming, a drop of the god's curse, alive even today. It's Argos, doing something by the exit below. It has been a few days since he last called you. It's about time he caused trouble once more. You lay a hand over your armband. This time he can do no damage, even if you wanted to command Asterion out. Not even your desire could cause the Minotaur pain now. But you know him well enough to realize that even just Argos' flute is enough to cause distress. And so, like a disgruntled neighbor, you make your way down to the spiral staircase. And out of the valley. He does not see or hear your approach. He's absorbed in his work, placing a few objects by his feet of one of the statues lining the hotel's exit. The snake, the labyrinth's foreman. How sick is it that his being, whose mission is to torture Asterion, could not bring about a fraction of the harm a crazed, twisted human could achieve. One must wonder how frightful Argos's sadism can be when the snake holds no power to bring his victim out himself. You touch the armband. Now, neither do you. Hello, Argos. Master! How did you? I saw you from my office. It seemed like you were trying to start trouble again, so I thought I should just come down and get it over with. Trouble indeed. I know all about it. But, get it over with. Sire, you have only just arrived. Why the hurry? I really don't have the time or patience for your antics. I'd rather you just tell me what you have to Then I'll tell you what I think about it, and we can go back. We can both go back to our lives. Oh, my lord, what is it that ails your spirits? Has the Minotaur failed his duties somehow? Has the guest disrespected your hospitality? Not a word about Asterion. He's done nothing to cause any ill will, and our guests bring only joy. Don't imply such things again. I won't stand for it. I have overstepped, have I not? I regret my words, and the distress they have brought upon you, my lord. It is not my goal or desire to bring strife to you. Yours should be a life showered with the finest of pleasures, plentiful in milk and wine, such like Elysium is said to be. You say that, but you've caused me nothing but strife, second only to what we experienced recently. I received a very unpleasant letter from Clement a couple days ago, you know. It reminded Asterion of everything that happened to him and the previous guests. It's all fine now, but I'm still not in the mood to deal with you on top of all that. The snake's gaze drops to the ground as he readjusts his pelt. His shoulders droop, his tongue shooting out. Half a dozen times. His tail coils around itself. And last he looks back up at you, like a child at a teacher. While it is my duty to inflict distress and grief upon the hybrid bull, I am also meant to assist in your affairs. Sorry. I just need to move something. Sire, with all the humility of my slithering servitude, which cannot hope to possess the greatness of the human mind, please allow me to interject. Are you sure this letter comes from Clement? Who else could it be? I don't know anyone else who'd do something like this. Could it be a prank? Mankind is supposed to be playful, yes? Yeah, okay. Maybe a reprobate? Has, perchance, set out to bring grief to your lordship. A reprobate? Like you, perchance? Me? Bring you grief? Perish the thought. For our most esteemed master, I wish only joy and glory. Gather the... wait. Gentler? Oh, it's gentler, not gentler. It's Gentler now. Gentler than rain. The snake lets out a sweet, playful hiss. Sure, whatever. So Argos, why were you going to call me out here today? What are you planning this time? Ah, my moment to shine arrives. Indeed, I have yet another task for you and your followers. I've gathered a treasure trove of artifacts for you, my lord. You may possess them, and they're, no thank you. Pardon? If your proposal hinges on sending Asterion out, I'll have to deny it regardless of the reward. But sire, what I have here is truly fortuitous finding. It's an essential document which Clement threw down into the valley during his rage. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to send Asterion out. Even if I wanted to, I'm forbidden from doing so. Forbidden? Why? You are the sovereign over this land and its law. Just what could possibly prohibit you from doing as you please? Oh, many things. My staff, for starters. They've learned the truth of Asterion's past, and will revolt if I ever think about mistreating him. Then find new, better workers. They are as disposable as broken tools. You rub your temple and give him a glance. Argos shrinks back on himself. People aren't disposable. Forgive me. From your tone, I assume again, a fox, pause, as they say. But my point still stands. Being peer pressured by your staff doesn't mean you are prohibited. Maybe, but neither do I want to mistreat Asterion. And there's a third factor as well. You tap the lead armband. This. Oh, what a drab piece of jewelry, my lord. This armband is part of a contract, Argos. It binds me from sending Asterion out here. What do you mean? That's impossible. You can't forbid yourself from doing the master's duty. The labyrinth would never enable such a thing. We were a bit creative, you see. If I send Asterion out, or allow anyone else to coerce him, then this armband will amputate my arm. The snake's eyes pass over your armband, as if trying and failing to find anything noteworthy about it. It is as though he cannot comprehend what you mean. In other words, if I send Asterion out, I will bleed to death. The contract is binding and cannot be revoked. I will never, ever be able to send him out. Chances are, he'll never come out here again, for as long as I live, and believe me, I intend to make sure my successor upholds the same standard. This is the end of your mission, hopefully, the end of it for all eternity. I'm putting a stop to this senseless torture for good. All at once, Argos crumbles. He sways and leans back, as though being swung around. The snake holds and squeezes his head, until a knife of gray iron sinks into his breast and severs his life thread in a pang of agony. He crumbles like flowers undone, torn from their stalks, and cries like a boy mourning his father. No, by the 12, by bright-eyed Athena, by all-powerful Lord Zeus, this cannot be. He lunges forward and grabs you up in a hug. He corrupted you, tarnished your very flesh with this curse. You are tainted, my lord, dirty with the fetid contract. There must be a way to release you from these shackles, a loophole, an inconsistency. There's no turning back. This is how things will be from now on, for good. So I suggest you take your little... Forget the treasures. What are they good for if you can't? If I can't. By the 12, what a wretched contract. He lets out the chest-heaving, heart-rendering sob of a child. Perhaps this is what he deserves. This snake meant to torture a prisoner. And yet, what harm has he brought compared to the dozens, hundreds of masters before you who held the power to stop all harm from coming to the Minotaur, and did not? This sorry beast is but a blip in the grand scheme that has brought Asterion so much suffering. Hagu. Perhaps a torturer like him, in the strictest sense of justice, should not deserve much in the way of kindness. The gods and their whims sentence mortals to a grievous fate. What is there to understand in it? And yet, regardless of how unfair it is for him to grieve at all, for this brief moment, you can offer a moment of sympathy. Like Asterion does to his lyre, you hug Argos in return, with all the open-heartedness of a father. Your hands lay over his scapula, And what a contrast they are to the Minotaur's wide back. It should be no surprise this snake is lean, but in truth, he is beyond bony. He tenses up as you squeeze. You think he may slither away at the contact, but his shoulders relax as he whimpers and groans. His own grasp tightens. He swabs into your chest. Your shirt is getting wet from tears and snot, but you graciously ignore it. You constrict him against you just a bit. Every other labored heave. What particular tapestry the gods have woven in it? It is not. Wait, is it not? Here lies the foreman, a wretched serpent who nevertheless could never cause a fraction of the damage Clement had. Did the old man ever feel grief like this? Can he fathom the days and nights Asterion spent locked in that cold room? And the gods, wherever they are, do they even remember the forsaken land and the lonesome prisoner they left behind? And Argos himself, do they think of him? He may be above Asterion, but he's still a cursed prisoner surviving off of bugs and rodents. But when you look at him, when he speaks to you, is he cognizant of the wretchedness of the fate he's been assigned? He bears his duty like a badge of honor, when in truth it is a shackle as tight clasped as the Minotaur's. He gives you one final squeeze, and still buried in your chest. He may not wish to let go, but there is no delaying the disentangling of limbs. You ought not apologize for your actions. The contract, the armband, all of it is fair and just. And yet, after witnessing Argos's wailing, wouldn't it only be fitting to say you are sorry? One should never apologize to a torturer, however. So, instead, you say the second best thing. It's unfortunate things have come to this, but it is what it is. I see. The snake looks to the stash of trinkets he had been placing at the feet of the statues, then back to you. My intention was for you to send Asterion deeper into the valley to retrieve another offering. But in truth, I meant to deliver the reward to you regardless of the results. So go on, have it. Forget the task, just take it. It should belong to you regardless. The Orcher? A colored clay dish with the black Minotaur painted on it. A set of clay dolls mounted on a single base, a round Minotaur holding a human's right hand, and a snake person holding the man's left. Almost a nativity. A nativity, yes, with how wide they smile. And under it all is a sheet of parchment, aged but as intact as the day it was created. What's all this? Argos looked at the clay dolls as he rubbed a forearm on his snotty. Wait, rubs a forearm on his snotty nose. Yes, okay. He says nothing until he moves closer and picks up the sheet of paper. This is a copy of the contract that gave birth to this very realm, or at least a fragment of it. The Labyrinth's constitution. Your contracts are powerful, my lord, but make no mistake, a human's will can never compare to that of a god. You will find that no attempt at amending or revoking this document will bear fruit. It is superior to all of us, and we are all bound to obey it. You will glimpse much of the labyrinth's inner workings by poring over it. He extends it to you. For a flash, his sorrow dies out, and only resolution remains. Argos gave you the labyrinth's constitution. You can read it in the contracts section of the files menu. Thank you, Argos. I'll make good use of it. Of course you will. You are a willy one, Master. But what about you? What'll you do now that you won't be, torturing Asterion? Ah, The desert wind, howls as the foreman's gaze, shies away. What life could this wretched being have now? Would you mind answering a few of my questions? Your wish is my command, Master. Do you have any family? Is there someone waiting for you down in the depths of the valley? A village of snake people, or a magical animal of sorts? Anyone you can talk with? Oh, but of course! That's my pelt for starters. Oh, there's my pelt for starters. You mean the one you're wearing? Yes, what else? It's been handed down for generations of Argoi. It is our inheritance and our constant companion. And that's not all. You've seen the kind creatures who roam this valley. They crawl, the crawling, shrieking ladies, and all their family of coal-born beings. Yes, but they don't talk, do they? It's not company. You just mean having generations before you? You just mentioned having generations before you. Do you have a father or a grandfather? I have pedigree. I have pedigree. Excuse me, my lord. But not in that sense. I did not meet my predecessors. No, they toil in their own time, and now I bear their mantle. So you've been alone here for... How old are you? Who raised you? I was no helpless infant, my lord. I raised myself, as all servants ought to. And what a puzzling question that is. How old am I? How should I know? Do humans count and name each day and night? I would never bore myself with such a task. You grew up alone, and you don't know how old you are? But that doesn't make sense. How do you know how to speak, and what you're supposed to do? You mentioned the gods, you mentioned the Greek heroes and gods, but how do you even know who they are, who they were, and what they did? His smile broadened, but his eyes remained half closed as if in caution. Can't you guess it yourself? I can't see any logical explanation, no. The labyrinth tells me, Master. Its mind has told me all I need to know. It has been a long time since they last spoke, but all I know comes from them. No, Argos. I've never heard of such a thing. This place has not one, but multiple minds? Just like any regular human. Or perhaps, does my dear lord lack the competing wants and desires that so plague mankind? Competing? It was probably competing. Do you not feel conflict, greed or lust clashing with humanity and chastity? Listen, having a set of wants at odds with each other is not the same as having multiple minds. That's a whole different thing. Heh, you still have much to learn. Do you perhaps think your mind alone is capable of commanding the realm to craft all that you may wish for? The labyrinth's mind hear your plea, read your instructions, and they do the dirty work of putting it all together. Say, have you tried creating life yet? A pet, a tree, flowers perhaps? I remember trying to make flowers, yes, but with no success. Of course not. You barely know the full extent of your powers. And you've already signed them off to the hybrid. How about I teach you a trick? A little revelation for your personal enjoyment. I'm gonna end the part here. So I will see you around.